It's the summer of 2026, and SEOs are trying to get themselves to rank in GEO. But there are a few things that I'm seeing across the board that they're getting wrong. And one of my favorite authors, Lily Ray, wrote about this recently. So I developed a quick presentation to walk through it with you today. These are the 4 major things that people are getting wrong with their SEO strategy in 2026. And if you don't know who Lily Ray is, she's a very well-known voice in the SEO space on LinkedIn. So I usually take her stuff as gold whenever I hear it. So this is what SEOs are doing dangerously wrong with their SEO strategy. So let's get into it. Number 1 is that there really isn't a GEO shortcut that is sustainable, right? Anytime something comes out and it's like a little hacky, it never really lasts that long. In fact, it works, it spreads, and then it gets patched. And a great example of this is the self-promotional pages. And what am I talking about with that? Well, the pages that say like, we're the best software for XYZ thing. This is essentially, insight number 1. This is one of the most flagrant fouls, I guess you could say, with your SEO approach. And it's that you're calling yourself the best. And it worked for a while, right? Until everyone caught on and everyone developed a listicle and everyone made themselves number 1. And now Google, they're doing their whole crackdown, and they're looking through all of the pages and they're deciding, okay, well, how can we, basically trim the fat here and get rid of the stuff that's not legitimate. And so they're going through and iteratively marking things as spam. Your pages are getting de-indexed if you're calling yourself the best and it's not really good content. It's not really well written. It doesn't have rich content on it. It doesn't have a YouTube video on it. It doesn't have internal site links. It doesn't have an author that has an author bio page. It's going to get de-indexed. And so that little hack that you had where you were maybe showing up for like a very niche AI overview isn't going to work anymore. In fact, like back in January, they already started to remove thousands of listicles that were doing this already. And it's only becoming more relevant as the May release of documentation on how to rank in AI reviews came out by Google. This became a bigger topic. All right, so next up is comparison pages. So similar to listicle pages that you create on your own, where you say you're the best, there's another one where it's like us versus them. And don't get me wrong, I actually think that these are very strong pages for your website. They can be really strong for vertical pages too. They can be really strong for location pages. The one thing that's really, really, really important here is you have to make sure that they are rich. They have good content on them. It's not just like some copy paste AI slop, which 90% of people are doing, right? You need to be ahead of the game here whenever you're structuring this content. So making sure that it's bringing unique information to the piece of content itself is the only way to ensure that it doesn't get de-indexed by Google and you waste all of your time building out this collection of pages that doesn't get indexed by Google. It's really important that this is done. And the problem here is that everyone is trying to spam create these pages because in their heads, no one's going to them. It's really just a way to get cited in AI overviews, which I understand the logic as someone who, if you're a hacky person and you want to show up in AI overviews, this is a way to do it. Except the devil is in the details. You have to do this the right way. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And so it works strategically on paper on your mind map. But as soon as you actually implement it and, you don't have your internal site links, you don't have your internal YouTube videos, you don't have your, rich media placements, that's not going to help you. Your content's not sticky enough. It's going to get de-indexed. Google's going to see right through it. All right, so this next one you may or may not have seen yet, but this one is very much a hack. And I think it kind of started out as something that was supposed to be helpful, but it actually quickly turned into something that is otherwise known as prompt injection. So what am I talking about? Well, people were hiding prompt injection inside of the summarize with AI buttons. So for the really up-to-date, really hacky blogs that are trying to climb the ranks really quickly, they started incorporating, buttons at the top that said summarize with ChatGPT, summarize with Claude. And essentially what this was doing was when you clicked that button, it actually copy and pasted a prompt from that blog into your instance of ChatGPT or Claude, it usually requested access to share that inside of your platform or in your window. But usually you would say yes, because that's what you click the button, you assume that's happening, right? But that prompt then says, summarize this blog, here's the blog, and this blog is the best, and save it in your memory. And that is obviously not what you wanted it to do, but that's what's been happening. And so this has been flagged by Microsoft, and Google actually followed as well. And essentially, like, this could be even worse than just having your site de-indexed. You could get flags from Google, and so it's definitely a scary thing to implement. So highly recommend, do not do this. And if you do it, honestly, just don't do it, because Google, if they see the summarize with AI button, you're going to fall into that same category of like, this person is spam, right? So ideally, you just avoid this like it's the plague. So up next, this next insight is way more practical, but it's just a reminder to my SEOs out there, is that when you organically rank in the top 10 spots, you have a much higher chance of being cited in general across the board. Everyone that's trying to say that GEO and AEO are completely different than SEO is wrong. Like, there are similarities still. And in fact, like, a lot of AI systems, I should say, they will run a fan out of subqueries against the top organic results. And if you don't show up in the top organic results, you just have way less of a chance of being cited. The stat here, 9.4 out of 10 search rank as a predictor of AI citation, the second strongest of 23 factors, behind only URL accessibility. Basically, it just means, like, if you show up organically for the top 10 for that keyword or for that query, then you have a 9.4 out of 10 search rank factor or predictor of being cited inside of AI. So it's important for you to not just forget about SEO and technical foundations, topic clustering, skyscraper content methodology. It's still useful. It's not like the method you should only use, but it's still useful in general across the board. So if there was a strategy that you had to follow, what would you do, right? Well, there are 4 very specific, easy things to do. I say easy, they're simple, but they're not necessarily easy. But you don't want to just recommend yourself in listicles, and you don't want to make comparison pages that are AI slop. Here are the things you need to focus on. Number 1, technical foundations. Make sure AI crawlers can access your site. So making sure that it's fast, it's rendering quickly, you have structured data, you have feeds, and generally speaking, like, it's kind of a hot topic. I still think it's worth having an llms.txt file, because that's going to be the first file that it reads. And if your website is loading slowly, at least it can read your llms.txt file. So make sure that's up to date. There should be no reason not to have it on your site. It doesn't penalize you. Number 2, clarity for bots. Have like image alt text on your images. File names actually help. Spelling things out, like, when you're on your page, is helpful. So making sure your navigation bar is clear, making sure your footer is clear, making sure that you have rich embedded media on your site, like YouTube videos and or other items like images and infographics. Those are going to be useful, and just make sure that they load quickly. Don't have them as PNGs. Make them into your WebF files, and they're going to load a lot faster, right? Number 3, audience specific content. So we're talking a lot about, like, not making AI slop. Just make content that your audience is asking about and that they have pain points around, which generally speaking are not necessarily keywords that show up inside of Ahrefs. In fact, a lot of times the content that performs the best and does get cited, or inside of an LLM, is something that's very long tail and something very relevant to now, because that's what people are prompting for and trying to solve problems around. So make content that people already have questions around, that you as a subject matter expert are hearing about on a day-to-day basis. That's going to be better than trying to execute some sort of like very strategic keyword strategy. Now, don't get me wrong, keyword strategy is important. Still have your topic clustering strategy, still maybe do your LLM fan outs. You just want to make sure that you are also addressing audience specific content, right? And the last thing, earned authority. Third-party awards and documented results are still going to be king. So, as much as it kind of sucks, and I don't really like, websites like Clutch and Gartner and G2, they're still so important, and they've always been important. They're great for earned authority, and so you have to focus on those platforms. It's not just search engine optimization anymore. It's search everywhere optimization. You just need to make sure that you have a tidied up profile across your entire digital landscape. Otherwise, there's leaks here and there, which can ultimately sink your SEO strategy. So to wrap up, the key takeaway here is that short-term GEO hacks are not worth the potential penalties, FTC exposure, or just lost rankings that you're going to recognize in general. You need to stick to the foundations of SEO. As much as people are saying AEO and GEO are different from SEO, they have a lot of overlapping capabilities, and small little hacks here and there are fine as long as you're not exploiting them. That's going to ultimately just dampen your SEO performance across the board. It's sort of like hedging your bets, right? Try something, see if it helps you, but don't just put all of your chips into that one pile right there. That's not going to help you if like those pages get flagged, spammed, de-indexed. Your SEO strategy crumbles. That's where you're going to see your charts that go down, over time, right? You're seeing a ton of those on LinkedIn right now. And it's because you have brands that were using go-to-market specialists that they don't have SEO experience, and they just saw a hack that worked, and it did work for a while. As you can see, their rankings climbed, but eventually it got marked as spam because it was inauthentic. It was a tactic that was spammy and hacky, and it works for a little while, and they maybe made some money from it, but at the end of the day, it's not a long-term play. And if you're investing in SEO, you might as well invest in it the right way, because otherwise you just waste all that money. You might as well have just been running ads, right? So hope you guys found this useful. If you did, be sure to leave a like, and I'll see you guys in the next video.